I always knew I wasn't the one they cherished most, but I never imagined they'd pretend I didn't exist on the most meaningful day of my life. My wedding was simple, a serene ceremony in the countryside, surrounded by close friends, a few distant relatives, and the man I loved with every piece of my heart. The only people missing were my own parents. No call. No text. Not even a flimsy excuse. Just silence. Backhand index pointing right. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. For weeks, I tried to rationalize their absence. Maybe there was an emergency. Maybe they got the date wrong. A flat tire? An accident? Something, anything, that could make their absence forgivable. But then the truth found me in the most brutal way. Photos. Thanks to Facebook's ever-watchful algorithm, I didn't miss a thing. There was my mother, glowing in a luxurious silk gown, smiling effortlessly in every photo. My father, raising a glass beside my sister, who, as it turns out, had thrown a casual backyard barbecue on the same day as my wedding. Balloons. A grill. A banner. And no sign they'd remembered I even existed. I was crushed. That night, still in my wedding dress, I sobbed in my husband's arms until I fell asleep, completely undone. A week later, I drove to their home. I wasn't looking for a confrontation. I just needed answers. Why? What did I do that made me so easy to forget? When my mother opened the door, her expression was cold. "Oh, it's you," she said, as if I were a door-to-door salesman. No hug. No congratulations. Just a dismissive wave to step inside. I asked, gently, why they hadn't come. My voice trembled as the question left my lips. My father didn't respond with words. He approached slowly, and slapped me across the face. It didn't hurt nearly as much as the shock did. My mother gasped, but not from concern. She was surprised I didn't crumble to the floor. I stood there, stunned, as my father jabbed a finger toward me. "How dare you question us after marrying him? You've humiliated this family enough." Enough? I didn't even understand what he meant. My husband was kind, thoughtful, steady. More than my father had ever been. And maybe that was it. Maybe he hated that he no longer had control over me. I turned to my mother, searching for even a flicker of warmth. Instead, she gave me the smirk I knew too well. "You chose to get married without our approval. You made your bed. Now lie in it." It wasn't just that they skipped my wedding. They deleted it from their lives. And in doing so, they deleted me. I left that night with flushed cheeks and a shattered heart. But something inside me shifted. The girl who had always tiptoed around their disapproval, their silence, their judgment, she disappeared that night. In her place stood someone else. Someone who had nothing left to prove. That night, I made a vow to myself. I would never chase their love again. I would rise, without them. And when they finally came knocking, I'd remember what it felt like to stand on that porch, invisible and unwanted. That day came sooner than anyone expected. The weeks that followed were quiet and heavy, like walking through the ruins of a life I used to believe in. I withdrew from social media. Ignored messages. My husband, Mark, gave me space I didn't even realize I needed. Every morning, I'd sit by the window, a cup of tea in hand, and watch the sky lighten with the sunrise. I'd wonder how strangers had managed to show me more kindness than my own blood ever had. But in that stillness, something else came to the surface. I wasn't fragile. I was forged in fire. I had survived their apathy, their favoritism, their cruel comparisons to my sister, the golden child. And now, I had survived the ultimate betrayal, being erased from my family's story. And that meant I was free. So I got to work. My little event planning business, once just a side project, became my full-time focus. I rebranded completely, new colors, new logo, new name. A name that didn't carry the weight of my family's. I didn't want their legacy touching anything I was about to build. I pushed myself hard. Long hours. Late nights. Weddings, galas, corporate events. I barely slept. But I didn't need rest. I needed purpose. Then, everything changed. A wedding I curated for a tech entrepreneur and his celebrity fiancé, a destination event dripping in elegance, went viral. Overnight, my inbox flooded. Influencers wanted to collaborate. Magazines called me the design queen no one saw coming. My social media exploded. And sure, money came. But it wasn't the wealth that made me smile in the dark. It was the freedom. The pride. The quiet triumph of knowing every single detail, every centerpiece, every chandelier, was chosen by the woman they once called a disgrace. And then, life came full circle. One night, my aunt called hesitantly. She wanted to know if I'd heard about my parents' financial mess. I hadn't. We hadn't spoken in a year. My father had made some disastrous investments. My mother had quit working. My sister was off planning yet another lavish destination wedding, oblivious to the chaos. And then, my phone rang. It was my mother. I nearly didn't recognize the number. Her voice, thin and sweet like syrup left too long in the sun. "Sweetheart," she began. "We're in a bit of a bind." I almost laughed. She said the bank was closing in on the house. My father had collapsed from stress. My sister's wedding was a month away, and they needed help. "Just a small loan," she said, voice cracking. "We know you're doing well. We're so proud of you." Proud. The word tasted like poison. I told her I'd think about it. That night, I lay in bed, eyes open in the dark. I didn't feel rage. Just clarity. So I wrote a brief, professional email the next morning. Subject: regarding your request. Body: unfortunately, my business does not offer financial support to individuals who once claimed I was a burden. For future correspondence, please contact my assistant. And I sent a gift. A neatly wrapped box. Inside was a single pair of socks, the same kind they once gave me when they bought my sister a brand new BMW. Only these had my business logo stitched in gold on the soles. Beneath them, a handwritten card. "You said girls like me just walk away. So I did, and built an empire." I never heard from them again. But 2 weeks later, I got an alert. My sister's wedding planner had cancelled, last minute. Guess who got the inquiry to replace her? The email landed in my inbox like fate itself. From Claire Beaumont. My sister. She had no idea the request would come straight to me. Apparently, her planner had fallen sick and the big destination wedding in Napa Valley was now in jeopardy. I could have ignored the message. Hit delete. Moved on with my life and never looked back. But something subtle stirred inside me. Not bitterness, not fury. Something colder, cleaner. An opportunity. I responded through my company's executive channel under an alias, never revealing my identity. The brand I built had a reputation for elite, discreet service. My assistant handled every exchange, and not once did Claire question who was behind the scenes. She likely imagined some distant, luxury-obsessed creative who couldn't be bothered with direct contact. 2 weeks before the ceremony, I was asked to visit the venue for a final walkthrough. It was extravagant, just as I expected, an elegant vineyard estate with gilded gates, antique cellars, and rows of lavender that shimmered in the breeze. It was the kind of place built for people who wanted to be envied more than they wanted to be loved. I arrived early, dressed in crisp black trousers and a simple white blouse. No lipstick, no drama, just me. Quiet. Professional. I wasn't there to dazzle. I was there to witness. When Claire swept into the room with our mother close behind, I didn't flinch. My mother didn't notice me at first, her attention fully consumed by Claire's high-pitched demands and nervous perfectionism. But Claire stopped. Mid-sentence. Her gaze locked on me. She blinked, tilted her head slightly, disbelief settling into her perfectly sculpted face. "No way," she muttered, her manicured nails catching the sunlight. "Is that?" My mother turned. Her face went white. "What are you doing here?" she breathed. I gave a soft smile. "Didn't you hear? Girls like me walk into rooms like this now." Claire's eyes narrowed. "Wait, you run this place?" "I own the company running it," I said evenly. "You're the client. I'm the one who signed the contract." My mother's knees seemed to buckle, and Claire looked like someone had just yanked the rug out from under her bridal heels. I offered them a choice. My voice calm. "We can proceed as planned. I'll continue professionally and ensure your wedding goes perfectly. Or I can walk, and you'll have 2 weeks to salvage whatever's left. Your call." They agreed to continue. Of course they did. The next 14 days were a lesson in control. I didn't cut corners. I didn't seek revenge. I created a flawless event, down to the ribbon colors, floral timing, and wine pairings. I brought in top-tier chefs, stylists, designers. Not to impress them. For me. Because I wasn't just good. I was the best. And no one would say I let personal history tarnish my work. Then came the reception. The final toast was scheduled for the parents. My father wasn't present, apparently still recovering from the financial disaster they refused to admit he caused. My mother took the stage in her floor-length gown, smiling as if she'd been proud all along. "To my beautiful daughter," she began, lifting her glass. "The star of our family. We always knew she would shine the brightest." A few unsure claps scattered through the crowd. "And to those who've always believed in her, who stood by her, supported her through every joy and every sacrifice." Her eyes briefly darted toward me. That's when the lights dimmed. A projection lit up the vineyard wall. No music. No narration. Just a silent film. Clean, honest, raw. Clips of me working through long nights, photos of stunning events I designed, magazine spreads featuring my face. Snippets from interviews where I spoke about building something from ashes. And finally, my logo. The same one embroidered on those socks I sent, the ones they thought were a joke. The silence in the room was deafening. Then I walked to the stage. "I wasn't welcome at my own wedding," I said, voice steady. "But I was hired to build this one. And I did, with the same hands that once reached out to ask why my parents weren't there, only to be met with silence. Gasps. A few murmurs. I looked at my mother. "You called me the disgrace. But the real disgrace? Choosing the child who cost you the most while abandoning the one who built herself in your absence." I didn't wait for applause. I simply stepped down. But people rose. Some clapped. Some just stared. Claire burst into tears. My mother looked like her spine had melted into the chair. I walked out. No one tried to stop me. Until I reached the limo waiting outside. My limo, not rented. "Wait!" It was Claire. Mascara running down her face, voice shaky. "Why would you do this?" she asked. "Why go through all of this?" I looked at her, not with anger, but something softer. "Because unlike you," I said, "I don't break people to win. I rebuild myself." Then I stepped into the car. The door clicked shut behind me. And as the vineyard gates faded in the rearview mirror, I didn't smile. I didn't need to. I had already won.